The first birth control I used actually was a copper IUD. I got that when I was 18.
So I started taking birth control. It was probably 4 months before I got married.
I went to Planned Parenthood to get mine, and I was like, this is what I want. They're like, okay, let's do it. So it was pretty simple for me. I know it's not like that for everyone.
One of the indications for birth control is like this moodiness that happens around your period. So in a whole bunch of women that get this really intense moodiness, and we know that happens to some women, if you give them birth control, it sort of chills everything out. So in a whole bunch of women, it actually helps that versus causing it. It's more commonly not caused by the birth control.
I was taking like my normal like antidepressant medicine, and when I started taking birth control, it just made me super like depressed and super like almost suicidal. And I can just remember like taking it and then like the doctor telling me that it wasn't going to affect me like that, even though I told the doctor that it had affected my mom and my sister and my mom's mom like that.
If the young woman is like, it coincided with when I started it, then yeah, we can definitely switch.
I think it gets even more complicated when it's like also like so stigmatized as like a woman's health thing, and like that's not me, but like I'm still dealing with it. So
I knew that I didn't want to get on another hormonal birth control.
I actually switched in September to the Mirena, which is the progesterone IUD. That was because I was having like other hormonal issues. I got diagnosed with PCOS, which is like a whole other thing.
So there's something called PCOS, or polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is not nearly as uncommon as we used to think it is. And part of the spectrum of it's a hormonal imbalance. So your periods are irregular with it, and giving a birth control pill or not a Nexplanon or a Depo, that's not what we need to give you. Birth control pill, patch, or ring, those three will sort of reset those hormones. They'll make your period regular.
For me, I was like, I need non-hormonal birth control because like I'm trans and I don't want any more hormones in my body. Like I'm not regulating.
It was just like a very naive, like there's no effects, like women don't really typically have effects on birth control.
But it's different for everyone. But frequently for people with the Mirena, they stop menstruating. And so about a week after I got my Mirena inserted, I like started having period. I was like, that makes sense. But then it just like kept going. And it was 5 weeks that I just straight up, and I was like, this sucks.
Like a lot of people can take it and be fine. And then when people don't, it's kind of like, well, that's just like a one-off case. But it's weird because the more people I talk to, the more I'm hearing these stories of like people really having trouble with it.
But it was so frustrating because I was like trying to live my life. Like I was on a date and I was like, I have to tell you, like it has been like it was like week 3 at that point. I'm like, this is still going on. Like, and they're like, I mean, it's a pandemic. What are we gonna do anyway? But
I have a very negative experience with it, but at the same time, I know that it is necessary.
In lots of areas of the country, there's no access to terminations. So you're either talking about an unsafe termination or an unwanted pregnancy. Both have a lot more risk than using the birth control pill, as long as you don't have a history of blood clots or migraine dolores, and we screen you.
For me, it was like, oh, like this is like more of a preventative thing to make sure like other issues don't arise, because like untreated PCOS like is like the risk for endometrial cancer and things like that, but it's not immediately an issue.
I think maybe it's the way that it's presented to women. As I think maybe the best way to go about it would be to say, why don't you try this? We'll check back in a month. We'll see how you're feeling. And if you're not feeling good, we'll talk about other options for you.
I think like it's sort of, I think birth control like in like transmasculine people is also like a whole thing. And like I feel really lucky that like I've had doctors who are like understanding, because I like got my Mirena and then like a week later was like, okay, let's start hormone therapy, and like it was not an issue. I mean, like again, I also know plenty of people who have different experiences. Like I have a friend who's like, for her it's life changing. I have other friends who like it's really, really not like feasible at all. So like, it's so varied for so many people that I'm just like, for me, it's been really helpful, but I have had access to information and care that's worked for me.